A top Ukrainian official said that his country is on track to churn out significantly more small attack drones by the end of the year than it originally set out to make as it continues to expand its weapons production capacity. Oleksandr Kamyshin, who serves as Ukraine's Minister of Strategic Industries, shared in December that Kyiv planned to produce 1 million first-person view, or FPV, drones by 2025. He said the country is also able to make over 10,000 mid-range attack drones capable of traveling hundreds of miles and more than 1,000 drones that can specifically reach targets more than 600 miles away throughout the year. This year, we will produce significantly more than 1 million of the FPV drones, Kamyshin told media this week, providing an update on the production efforts but declining to provide specific figures. Throughout much of Russia's brutal war in Ukraine, FPV drones have been heavily featured in combat. Both sides have effectively managed to turn these systems, which are cheap and in abundance, into precision munitions by strapping explosives to them and using them to strike everything from armored vehicles to the soldiers in the trenches. Kamyshin said during an interview with BI on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Washington, D.C., that the FPV drones are a significant share of the war in these days. He referred to FPV drones as mortar drones and artillery drones in a nod to their explosive potential that's similar to the ranged weapons. Ukraine has other unmanned systems as well and regularly uses its medium and long-range attack drones, which are larger than the cheap, hobby-style FPV ones, to carry out strikes deep inside Russian territory and target high-profile military and energy facilities. These homemade weapon systems have given Kyiv the capability to greatly extend its reach beyond the border, especially as it continues to face restrictions on using Western-provided weapons for such purposes. We proved that there are no red lines, Kamyshin said. Now, we can reach Russia by deep inside, like 1,500 kilometers easily, and we showed that dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of times, he said, noting that that's the impact our industry is making in this war. The increased drone output comes amid broader efforts to scale up Ukraine's defense industrial base. The country has gone from almost non-existent production before Russia's full-scale war to now cranking out weapons at a breakneck pace, which is helping to grow the domestic economy. Kyiv is also taking greater steps to integrate its growing defense industry with that of NATO and the West, and just opened an office in Washington to achieve that goal. Meanwhile, Ukraine is taking its homemade weapons and modifying them for other missions. For instance, the country has outfitted its naval drones with missile and rocket launchers, and it has turned one of its anti-ship cruise missiles into a land attack weapon. These innovations have helped Kyiv to inflict losses upon Russia, and Kamyshin attributed this to Ukrainian resilience, the capability to withstand under the pressure, under the fire. However, Ukraine is not the only side boosting its defense output in this war. Russia has placed its economy onto what experts say is a Soviet-style war footing and is rapidly producing its own weaponry, triggering alarm bells among some NATO allies. On the other hand, the Deep State Map project, which has links to Ukraine's military, said on Telegram that Kyiv's forces had driven Russian troops out of Sitnitsky Kazachok, located near the border between Ukraine and Russia. Russia had reportedly occupied the village since July 3rd, which allowed Moscow's forces to expand the front line in the Kharkiv region, Ukrainian media reported. But a map by the Deep State channel showed Sitnitsky Kazachok marked in blue late Friday night instead of red, to indicate the presence of Russian forces the previous day. The village was among several settlements which had faced Russian shelling following Moscow's push into the region by the border, which was launched on May 10th. The Deep State Post on Friday said that Ukrainian defense forces had detected and destroyed a sabotage and reconnaissance group that had been in the village, and the Post also said that Russians had made advances around 5 villages in the Donetsk Oblast. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, said Friday that Western aid has allowed Ukrainian forces to stabilize critical areas of the front and make successful counterattacks in northern Kharkiv toward the city of Kreminna in the Luhansk region. The Washington, D.C. think tank also said that Kyiv will be able to step up these counterattacks over the coming months as further Western security assistance arrives at the front line and as Ukraine continues to build out reserves and new brigades. Kharkiv has been the scene of huge losses of Russian troops, which the British Defense Ministry said on Friday had reached conflict highs. The ministry said that daily average casualty numbers for Russian troops in the war were largely linked to a failed attempt to advance in the region since Moscow launched an offensive in May. The UK Ministry of Defence said that average daily Russian casualties, both killed and wounded, had reached 1,262 and 1,163 in the 2 months, and that over this time period, Moscow had likely lost in excess of 70,000 personnel. It comes amid reports of overnight attacks by Russian forces in the Donetsk region which killed 6 people in the town of Lyman, according to Ukraine's state emergency service. They were among Russian attacks across Ukraine that killed at least 7 people and injured at least 29 over the past day, regional authorities said on July 13th. On the same day, UK military intelligence said that Russian injuries and deaths had spiked to their highest point in the war in May, with Russia losing around 1,200 troops a day. The increase came as Russia intensified its attacks on Kharkiv, Ukraine's second biggest city, to take advantage of delays in Western aid getting to Ukraine's front lines. Despite suffering large casualties, Russia has been able to replenish troop numbers by offering relatively lucrative military contracts, drafting prisoners, and using foreign mercenaries.
Пострел!